came here to great little town of Lauderdale-by-the-Sea with the help of John Boughton, David, Gold Coast Scuba, and a lot of my friends and family members. We set the saltwater duration record. We stayed underwater out there by the Bio Rock for 55 hours, or 48 hours, 14 minutes, and 32 seconds, or something like that.
Wasn't that 2 records?
It was.
Longest salt water and longest time in a washing machine?
Yeah. That was an intense dive, to say the least. Tibor, my friend, he's not here tonight, but the rules for a record like that is it has to be in an uncontrolled environment. And Tibor says every one of these I do is in an out-of-controlled environment. There's nothing we can do about what's happening. And that proved by all means an uncontrolled, out-of-controlled environment at that time. It was brutal. This was the promotion video that we started with. Tom Postal and Bob Jagir put this together. So this is, if you just roll this, David, this is just a little bit of we're using the SCULS unit, and that's the Bio Rock back when it was first put in. At that time, there wasn't even any electricity to it. The solar panels were gone, and we were down here just to help promote that whole project and try to raise some money to get some solar panels put back on it. This was the first record attempt. We tried to communicate. We ended up using what do you call these things?
Etch-a-sketch.
Yeah, etch-a-sketch things. We wrote notes back and forth. But you can see the Bio Rock was very, very clean at that time. There wasn't hardly anything on it. So now there's a lot of stuff tied on. And me and Bob played with that one. He used that same clip in his visit Florida, the promotional video for Lauderdale-by-the-Sea. He took parts of this and put it up on that. But so we're back here. We're back last year in 2013. Some guy in England went ahead and set the record to 49 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, well,
You gotta go 50.
we just can't do that. We're going to do 55 this year. We're just going to go to 55, make it a nice even number. 25 and 25 and some other change. So we're coming back to do that. I look forward to coming down here and doing this. I mean, this is just, it's not a vacation by no means to go out there and do what we're going to do. It can be brutal. The 2 times I was out there, it was very brutal. I mean, I've dove here hundreds of times, and it's been just calm and relaxing and nice, enjoyable dive. And then those 4 days were just incredibly brutal. So we're hoping for better weather this time, and a lot more than just me breaking the record. This year, my wife Barbara, we're going to get married underwater. We're going to have a wedding ceremony out on the Bio Rock, and we're doing. Barbara is my wife, and Mellie's our friend. They're both mermaids. Barbara was a mermaid for.
I swam for 21 months, part of the park for 50 years.
Yeah, at Wiki Watch. So she's a well-known mermaid. She's been in the New York Times, Today Show. I mean, lots of different things. So we're going to do a ceremony underwater. So this year we're going to try to set 3 records at one time if we can. One will be the world record dive, 55 hours underwater. The other record is going to be the most divers in the water for an underwater wet. So whenever we get started on Friday, we're going to have the ceremony. We're going to try to get as many divers in the water as we can to break that record. And then that whole week, or from Thursday to Sunday, is Mermaids-by-the-Sea. Because when we came up with this idea, Barbara and I were riding around and we're like, I said, well, what do you think about me going back down Lauderdale-by-the-Sea and doing the record? You know, we'll do something like that and maybe bring some mermaids and do this. And so Barbara says, okay, I'm excited. Let's call John. So she called John Boughton, and John Boughton's been very instrumental in helping us get this project going as well as Richard Blight. So she called John, and they got to talking, and pretty soon it turned into this whole Mermaids-by-the-Sea event and me diving. So I think you'd probably be looking at the mermaids more than myself, but they're, that's what this event's going to be. It's going to be mermaids on the beach.
And I want to say about the mermaids. It's not about Wiki Watching Mermaids. What we're opening up to, there are a lot of conventions. There's a lot of mermaids out there now, and they want a place to gather. We've been to the conventions. They want to put on their $6,000 tails or their $100 tail and sit on the beach. And John's opened his pools to that. Lauderdale-by-the-Sea might make it a yearly event. So I want you to get a tail, I want you to get a tail, I want you men. We're trying to find tail makers in the area. I can help you with a pattern. You have a tail? Well, bring it. For that. Oh, well, I want to talk to you. So, anyway, it's for any person, any man, woman, or child. And some people are coming as pirates because there's always, the husband's got the pirate outfit on. But please, please, it's for everybody. It's for anybody who wants to wear a tail. And we're just going to have the most mermaids in the water. We're going to have mermaids on the beach with their tail around the world. So it really brings people to your community. That's what John wanted to do, to make something different and unique. And us already tapped into the mermaid world, and him already having the event here is just a great marriage with this sweet little community. So, but it's not limited to anybody. It's anybody that wants to be a mermaid. In the pools, on the beaches, in the water. You can swim out in your tail to where he is. There's a lot of safety out there. So if you're in the shop or if you're anything, please spread the word. It's for anybody to finally bring their mermaids out. That's my thing.
Yeah, yes, sir, John.
Alan, could you discuss a little bit about the technical aspects of the dive, and specifically, how do you protect yourself from the elements out there, and how many tanks does it take to do that kind of a dive?
Well, on this particular dive, thank you, John. On this particular dive, we've done it in the past. We were running, I estimate around 2 hours per tank due to the depth we're at out there, because we're around 15, depending on high tide, low tide, so your air consumption is increased by the depth you are underwater. Plus, last year, it was everything, the volatility of the waves and all of that. So it's going to take 55 hours, at least 25 to 30 tanks to get through that process. And then that's as long as everything goes right. That don't mean that something can happen. You can have an empty tank pretty quick. So
show them the skulls in your side mount, how much easier it's going to be.
well, that's whenever we did the dive last year, that was or 2 years ago, that's what made it very difficult. David was out there, Brian was out there, we had a lot of things, and we had surge, we had big waves. I mean, you look at David's size and my size, and he's helping me change a tank that was on my back. So David's got a tank, and he takes it off my back, and then the current pushes him out. Then the next thing the current pushes him in, I'm leaning up against that bio rock. I weighed 145 pounds at that time. Dave and all of his gear is smashing me into this rebar till the tide resides, and then it backs off. So we would go through this little dance for however many minutes, sometimes 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes 10 or 12 to 15 minutes. You're just okay, and you're holding on because you don't want to be pulled out into the middle with no tank on anymore. And then the next move, you're squished into this grate, and you're just like, okay, anytime now, anytime, and you're just waiting to get the go-ahead. Because at this point, whenever I switch tanks, I'll show you some of the masks I use. When I switch tanks, then I would take the regulator out, go to a backup regulator, and I'm holding on. So my ability to breathe depends on me staying close to this tank. And the tide and the current didn't help any of that, So it's this brutal battle of going back and forth. So hopefully this time we're going to have really good weather, is what we're hoping for. And I changed my configuration this year to a new style jacket. It's becoming very popular, especially in technical. It's a side mount rig. It's a Nomad. Dive Right is sponsoring me this year. They provided me with this. I will wear this unit. We won't have to take anything off my back anymore. It's just a matter of clipping in 2 clips from each tank. I won't even have to take this unit here off at all. So I'll put this unit on. I'll wear it. The tanks will clip into this ring up here on the top, so I'll have one on each side. And then on the back, there's 2 places back here for the bottom of the tanks to clip into. So when my support divers come out, I need a tank change. It's just a matter of unclipping the tank, taking it out of the way, putting another tank in and clipping it off. We'll change the regulators out, so all I got to do is take one regulator out, put another regulator in. The mask that I will be using, the hardest part about this was my face. We're going to do dry. I've done 5 days in a wetsuit. Your body don't look too good. But what I did was switched over to I'm going to use just a dry suit this time. It's 55 hours. Richard likes to say that I'm the only guy that will say it's not a very long time, 55 hours, so I'll just do that in a dry suit and get it over with. To me, 55 hours, after being underwater 5 days, 2.5 days is really not that big of a deal. To some people it will be, it's just not. So I'll do the dry suit the whole time. That'll protect my whole body, and I'll even use dry gloves. The only thing that'll be exposed is around my face, just a little bit around the edges. So the mask, these masks are designed to be worn for an hour-long dive. An hour-long dive is a long scuba dive. So imagine wearing this thing for 55 hours. It's hard rubber. It has a tendency to start to grow into your body. It just, no matter how loose you put the straps, it's still pulling against your face. I had a ring around my face, a big scab for a week after my 5 days underwater. So I will switch back and forth so I don't make a permanent crease. You just have to keep changing out to give that area a chance to recover and then put a different one on. So I'll be wearing different masks throughout the time, throughout the dive. Now, what you heard me talking on was an invention of mine from, I've worked on this thing for 5 years. And it'll be available. They'll be at John's. Barbara, Melly, Richard all have access to these for anyone that wants to try them out or any media that wants to come do a interview. This is worn on the front of the diver this way, and with your full face mask on.
When you talk, you just broadcast the sound right out into the water, so everybody that's in the water around us can hear this, and this is what we'll be using when we get married. Barbara and I will be on one, and Melly will be on one talking to us, so this is what we're going to use.
Now, these have quick disconnects, so when I change tanks, I just take a new tank, clip it off, plug into this, now I'm breathing again. So, but each one of these masks, you see that backside of it, how it fits to my face is important because I'm not going to wear this one mask the whole time. This one will start irritating my face. So I'll just switch out. I'll usually keep the same SCULS unit on, but I'll just switch out the mask. So I'll be able to go from mask to mask and just use the same unit over and over again. They're just powered by a rack of AA batteries. It's in a compartment on the bottom.
Got yourself a patent?
Yes, it's called SCULS. It stands for Self-Contained Underwater Loudspeaker. You know, scuba diving, everything in scuba is some kind of acronym for something or other. So I just come up with my own acronym. This is one of the masks that I was wearing in the previous video. It's a pretty comfortable mask.
It too, like the other one, will start to eat at your face after a while, so you even have to change this one out. So this is what we'll be wearing, and whenever I'm talking underwater, you can hear it a long ways away. So
anyone that wants to will get a chance to play with these, whether you come out on the dive or you go in the pool. So one thing about them is we also use them on the boat. We live up in West Central Florida, Weeki Wachee, and we go out scalloping and snorkeling and playing around, and we just drop one over the side and play music. So we'll be drifting on our boat, music's playing in the water. And I've shot big grouper with that thing playing music, so it don't bother it. It's just third John.
Something that you and I had many conversations, but we never really talked about the original why did you ever decide to do this? Like, what drove you to think that one day you wanted to set a record, and this kind of record?
Well, it all started, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago maybe. Tibor and I were at Weeki Wachee Springs one day, and I wanted to do something. Barbara and I, we all have passions for something. How do you get something, how do you motivate something or somebody into doing things? So when you develop a passion for something, then it's real easy to latch on to something, even if it's very difficult. So promoting things was what I wanted to do. At that time, Barbara was really involved with promoting Weeki Wachee. I wanted to promote Weeki Wachee, so I said, well, let me do something in scuba that can really blow things out of the water. And so it seemed pretty tough at the time. And I said, well, I'll just stay underwater. I can scuba dive. I mean, I can scuba dive for a long time. So that was my decision to start it. Wiki Watchy wouldn't let me do it, so I still had this plan. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to do this. So a couple years after that, opportunity arose again. I owned a dive shop. I could dive a lot. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go ahead and try this. I'm going to do this. So 9/11, I had actually started working with Formula H2O, which is underwater scooter racing. They race DPVs, diver propulsion vehicles. They race these little scooters around. So I met these guys, really great guys, Joe Weatherby and Dave Syrak. Joe Weatherby has, what's it called? Reef Makers. So I met these two guys, and they had formed this league called Formula H2O. The reason I got involved with them was because I could announce the race underwater. So we could go down there and I could sit and do the commentary and announce this race underwater. So I wanted to set this record. I tried really hard, and if you don't have something to motivate you, you're not going to get anything done. I don't care how good the cause is. If you're not really motivated by that, no matter what your abilities are, you can't accomplish that task. So with Dave and Joe, they did this thing for wounded warriors, for the veterans. And so I met some of these guys. I came down here. We dove to Copenhagen with Jeff Sherrod. We did a race out there. And after that, I taught them into coming to Wiki Watchy, doing the races there. And I said, well, this will be my motivation. How can I psych myself up to stay underwater for 5 days? And I did it on 9/11 as the 10-year anniversary of the World Trade Center. I went in at the exact same moment the first plane hit the World Trade Center and stayed for 5 days. So that gave me the cause. That gave me the desire I've got to do this, because I met these guys. I mean, I had dinner with these guys. I raced with these guys. They're missing arms. They're missing legs. This is what they're doing, to stay active after what happened to them. So that was how it all got started. And then I had been coming down here to Lauderdale-by-the-Sea and diving. This is a beautiful place. I've dove all over the state of Florida, from Tallahassee or Jacksonville all the way back up to Panama City. And this place was just, I don't know, just a magical place. I came down and dove out here, and it was just a beautiful place. Really enjoyed every bit of it. And so I don't know what John thought the first day I called him. I'm going to ask him that question in a minute. But I called John one day. A friend of mine, I had actually met John through another person that had met me down here. I used to drive down here and go diving and go home. And the guy met me down here, and I said, well, where'd you stay? He said, we stay at Invention. And he said, this is the most awesome place. You got to come down here and stay sometime. So I kept coming to town, diving. And so I called John one day. I said, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. And John probably thought I was the most crazy, insane person
He
ever
called him
heard
the
of.
grouper because he hangs on a rock.
So then John got into helping us, and it's been awesome. I mean, without John's support, it would be very, very difficult to pull off something like this. So, what did you think about that, John, when I called you?
Well, I was busy when you called me, and you were trying to announce who you are. I have call screeners, and they put you through because you said the chief of police said to call me. So I said, all right, so I'll talk to this guy. And then when you said, I wasn't really paying much attention until you said, well, what do you want to do? And you said, I want to set a world record about being underwater scuba diving, and I'm not that familiar with it. So then that's when I asked you that question. Well, how much time? What's the world record? That's when you said, 48 hours or something. Then I went, oh, this guy's insane. But since marketing and I like crazy stuff, and then when you mentioned mermaids, I went, what? Then I started paying attention. I said, you know mermaids? Really? And then that's the rest was history. Then we put out together to do this thing, and we tried one time, didn't work because of the weather was so bad, we had to pull them out. But then we finally did it again in December, and lo and behold, we actually set a world record. And all the media was there. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was, and so, the guy, we had the record until 2013. The guy from England pushed it up another hour or so, and I was wanting to do it again, and I didn't really want to know. I didn't really It's like, I really want to do it, but I don't know if I'm ready to do it yet. I mean, physically, I'm fine. Mentally, I've never been there, but it was like, we can do this. So Barbara and I called John, and we were on the phone.
Alan, could you talk about what we spoke about the other day, because I couldn't quite understand, that somebody had mentioned that the water's so warm off the coast, that why you have to wear a dry suit, and why the body temperature goes down, and how do you get it back up while you're down there?
Well, I don't know what the water temperature will be here in September. I'm sure it'll be still in the 80s, probably.
It's
In the-
79 to 80.
Yeah,
It'll still be in the 80s.
And even when I did the world record in the freshwater, it was 85 to 90 degrees sometimes.
Yeah.
And even in 85 to 90 degrees, you can check the NOAA website, and they'll tell you how long a body will survive in the water, even at 85 degrees. You'd think 85 is not cold. 85, you'll develop hypothermia and die. If you don't have something to protect you from that water, you will develop hypothermia and die.
Did you only use the dry suit prior to this one?
No, I've used...
I mean, a wetsuit prior to this?
Yeah, I did, when I did the world record, when I made it, I had used a dry suit for 48 hours. After 48 hours, the dry suit flooded on me. So I pulled it off, still underwater, pulled the dry suit off, put on the wetsuit, finished out the dive. So, yeah.
This wouldn't be possible just for wetsuit though.
Well, now I did the 48 hours in a wetsuit. I used a semi-dry wetsuit with a hood. The hood is the most important thing in this dive. Y'all, all divers know that if you don't protect your head, you're going to freeze to death. DUI is a dry suit, Diving Unlimited International is a dry suit company, and they'll tell you any part of your body that stays exposed, you'll develop hypothermia for. They said you can cover up, cut the seat of your pants out, set in the snow, you'll get hypothermia. Whatever part of your body is exposed to the extreme cold, that blood moves to that part. Pretty soon your core temperature drops, you get hypothermia, and you can die. So that was how wearing the exposure suit keeps me at a good temperature. How I increase the temperature is by eating. If you don't, I eat and drink. Once you start, I drink. I use a Gatorade twist top bottle. Once I drink the chocolate milk, and sure Barbara's going to be my dietitian this time, so she's going to give me all the right nutrients. So it was amazing. Mentally, I have to stay very focused about this because you go in the water and it's 85 degrees. It's just like going home and taking a shower and jumping in bed. Okay, as the sun goes down, we know that water is still going to be 85 degrees at 6 o'clock in the morning. However, psychologically, and you're used to this normal bed sleep thing, you start getting cold. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, underwater, I'm freezing to death. Nothing's changed. The water temperature hasn't changed. My metabolism has changed. I've slowed down. I'm in a sleep mode, so I get cold. That was the most critical point of the dive, is having divers there with me watching me at night, because there every breath counts. I can't just skip a breath. I mean, they have to sit there and watch me and make sure that I'm breathing and that it's a regular, normal breathing cycle. And T-Board knows how to do it. He's watched me sleep several times on the water. It was really cool because in the lake, he did a little sleep one night. He decided to see what it was like to fall asleep. So it's pretty unique to take a nap. And this is T-Board Farkas. He's my, he'll be my lead safety diver. He's been with me on,
All five.
every time I've been in to do a world record. T-Board's been there. He's been there with me from the planning, from the get-go. He's my.
Bring him up here with you.
Come up here with me,
For
T-Board.
Hi.
This is my main man here. He's helped me through every one of them. We planned these before we even got a chance to. I even got permission to even start or even any inkling of being able to do it. T-Board and I planned and planned and planned, and we went through.
For over 3 years.
Yeah, how dangerous is this? There's a lot of information he and I had that we withheld from people because you don't want to scare everybody to death. It's a dangerous thing.
The original dive, you actually planned for freshwater for 74 degrees,
Yeah,
which would have been very
Really
good.
cold.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very
74
cold.
is
So
big difference.
you have to use a full face mask so the regulator doesn't drop out of your mouth when you fall asleep, or
No, well,
We did the first time,
yeah.
and that came up later that we should probably use a full face mask just for that reason. Because psychologically, you got to hang on to it all the time. With a full face mask, you don't have to do that.
Yeah. And then when I did the regulator, what I used was a big hood, a tube-type hood. It was a little bit smaller than I'm supposed to. And then with the Scuba Pro mouthpiece, has a really large mouthpiece. And when you put that in and pull that hood up tight, you can take a nap. Just going to sleep underwater sounds relaxing and cool. It's really not. That's why I make music underwater. A lot of people tell me, said, well, I like going and diving because it's really quiet and peaceful. That's not the truth. If you go out on the reef, there's every kind of noise you can imagine. You can hear a boat 10 miles away. You can hear a boat you can't even see. You can hear a crab, you can hear a lobster, you can hear a shell. You can hear so much under there. So just think about you breathing.
Especially when it's dark. And
It's
your
dark, yeah,
eyes aren't
everything
there.
gets loud. So when you're breathing, and after 4 days, it sounds like a train horn every time you inhale, every time you exhale. It just gets to be the noisiest thing you've ever heard of. So you really don't get any sleep. I like that. My cousin Benny, y'all saw that movie? You know, he couldn't sleep in the quiet. He had to be in all that noise, so he would be right at home, right there, with all that going on. Just so.
Not only that, but also the tank changes.
Tank changes. So this will be a whole lot simpler here. We're just gonna set this up and we'll have the tanks on the boat. One thing we had, the first time we had a big problem for, in the first attempt down here, was the waves were so bad, the current was so strong, the wind, everything. Tibor and them had just a tremendous time getting tanks out to me. That was the reason we had to call the first diver. It was just impossible to get tanks out to that site. So this time we're going to do a different route. We're going to have the boat stationed above me. We'll have tanks there. That way we're not having to fight so hard with tanks. We ended up, how many, 4 or 5 tanks? 2 ended up down at Port Everglades, I believe. They picked them up at the port,
Yeah.
so.
I think one port, one at Oakland Park Boulevard.
Yeah.
And then 3 or 4 months later, I was out there, I found the third one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
intended to dive and storage.
Were they
within
yours, Dave?
45
Were they
minutes.
y'all's? Were they
Yeah,
y'all's
one of
tank?
them was mine.
One was
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah.
One was one of your
One of
guys.
yours, yeah.
Yeah, 3 months later, I call him up, hey, I found your tank.
I had about 4 or 5 months later, after we're all done, I'm not even thinking about the dive, anything, I get a call from a lady. And she says, I think you're the guy. I'm like, okay, I don't know what the guy is. I have this dive flag that has your name on it. I'm like, it was on a float, it washed up on the beach, and I picked it up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy. She said, well, what do I do with it? I said, well, keep it as a souvenir. I mean, it's like, you can't
It was one of those dives where everything floated away.
And it-
No matter what you did, you could tie it down and floated away.
Who all was at the beach the night that they called it? Were you at, yeah. Because I'll just tell you a really quick story. It was so rough they couldn't get to him. Tibor and Jose kept coming back and they tried everything. They even had to change tank. So go out this way. Well, finally Alan's coming in. He's got no air. And he comes out of the water and the first thing he says, well, they should have called it. Now it's almost 40 minutes before they show up. The waves are so high, they can't see our lights, we can't see there. They get to where Alan was, he's gone. You know, so everybody's on the beach doing, Alan's here, but where's Tibor and Jose? Where's Tibor? And it was like a sigh of relief when you finally saw him come up.
Usually it took us 10 minutes to get to the site. It took us
45.
45 minutes with scooters.
Yeah,
Large
with scooters.
Tank scooters.
And their
That's-
second tank, they had to come back in because they couldn't get to him. So it was a really rough evening.
As far as tanks go, this year they're doing a sale of tank stickers. So you can actually buy this tank sticker, what are they, $20? $20. This goes on the tank. It could be a tank I use, it could be a tank Tibor uses, it could be one anybody uses. It comes out there, but you can put your message on here. So, I mean, there's a chance that when we set the world record and we come out of the water, this could be your message to me on the tank. So,
We'll be shooting pictures of them and putting them up on Facebook as they go on. So they're
these are the tank stickers. There's some here. I think you can contact, I don't know if Steve has them at the shop or I don't know.
They're around in different dive shops and
Different
at
dive shops.
Windhammer and.
So that'll be, I don't know the whole, they all know that stuff. I just know how to breathe underwater. That's about all I know.